Have a good one, Dave. Okay, so we left off on the top, right? Nun Zayin Amud Aleph.
Did you get to the two dots?
We got to the two dots, right? By S. And we're in the whole Isser, Sugyas of Isser Hana. So we have a few interesting things about Kodshim tonight.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, no, it's not so hard. But yeah. So we're up to Egla Rufa. So one of the things.
Where did you leave off?
Sorry, no, I'm sorry. Nun Zayin Amud Aleph, about 10 lines down, our first two dots. 9 lines down. 9 lines down, Nun Zayin Amud Aleph. Yeah. So Egla Rufa. So we said, so what's Egla Rufa? Egla Rufa is if they find a dead body somewhere in the outskirts of town and nobody has any idea who killed. So the elders of the city have to go take a calf, whichever city is closest to this dead body, and then they have to bring the dead body, they have to bring the animal down a valley that's barren, and they snap its neck, or they don't snap its neck, they hatchet its neck. Right? So that Egla Rufa is Asr Bahana. So if somebody goes and marries a woman with it, then it's no good. So how do you know it's Asr Bahana? It says that it's a kapara. Right? What's the Egla Rufa for? If a dead body was found near the town, so it needs a kapara. Right? So therefore, it's like Kachim. Kachim's Asr Bahana. So Egla Rufa is also Asr Bahana. Right? Fine. Next, Tzipare Mitzayra. So we know that the Mitzayra has to bring 2 birds. One bird gets shechted, right? And the other bird, they dip it into blood, and that's what and you mix it together with the hyssop and the whatever the chutshani, and the what was the other thing? Hyssop and the eitz erez, shnitz halas, right? Mixed it all together, and then but one bird gets sent away, one bird gets shafted. But this happens outside the Beis Hamikdash. This has nothing to do with the Beis Hamikdash. This enables the one that has tzaras to come back into the machane. Right? Has nothing to do with it. So that's called chutz. It's going to be called chutz. So minal. And how do we know that those birds are also about? The Tana Dvei Rabbi Shmuel nemar machshir u'mechaber b'mefnim v'nemar machshir u'mechaber b'chutz. Okay, so machshir b'mefnim means you have to. Mifrim means that is the Beis Hamikdash. There is a machshir. There's karbonos that are called machshirim, and then there's karbonos that are called mechaprim. So mechaprim is that if somebody does something wrong, they have to bring a carbon that they get a kapara. A machshir is that makes them back into kosher. Right. So machshir of the tzaras also another thing that the tzara has to bring is the carbon asham. So that's a machshir.
He has to bring mechaper and machshir, right?
Correct.
So the kapara is not even a question. I'm only asking on the machshir.
Yeah. No, we're not. No, we're making a comparison of both. It says machshir and mechaber mi befnim. Right, a machshir, somebody has to do something in the Beis Hamikdash to make him kosher, right?
We just said kapara before.
No. Machshir, Asham has to bring a Mitzayra. I'm sorry. A Mitzayra has to bring Asham. Sorry, that was a bad one. Right? A Mitzayra has to bring an Asham. Right? Not because there's anything wrong with him. He needs to become kosher to become back into Klal Yisrael.
Right.
That's a machshir. That's making the Mitzayra kosher.
Asking on the machshir part, not the kapara carbon. He brought a kapara carbon also.
What? No, I don't think he brought a kapara carbon.
He doesn't have to bring a kapara carbon, a mitzayra?
I don't think so.
But didn't he do something wrong to get tzaras?
I don't think that what he did wrong, lashon hara, whatever it is carbon required. Chet.
Okay.
Baruch Hashem.
I'm gonna say we have kapara. We learned kapara already. We point out kapara already from Egla Rufa, and that's chutz.
Yes. So nemar machshir mechaber mi befnim, right? But mechaber mibifnim is all karbanis. Rashi says all karbanis is kapara mibifnim, right? V'nemer machshir u'mechaber mibachutz, right? There's the machshir mibachutz, that's the mitzayir on the outside, right? And then there's the mechaber mibachutz, that's the egla rufa.
Right, that's
Egla rufa is a kapara mibachutz, right? Okay, so ma machshir mechaber amar bifnim also by machshir kemechaber. So the machshir is just like the mechaber. Right? Meaning the Torah doesn't differentiate between the asham from a Matzayra or a regular asham. Everything gets brought into the Mizbeach. Af machshir mechaper, ha'amr b'bechutz, also by machshir ke-mechaper, the machshir is like a mechaper. Just like the egla rufa, which is a mechaper, is also bahana. So therefore the bird of the Matzayra, which is not a mechaper, it's a machshir, is also bahana. Basically, we're just aligning all the karbanas, whether the karbanas are to make them kosher or to mechaber, whichever one. So that's what we're saying it for. See, itma, tzipari Matzayra, me'emasai asurim. So good. So these birds that the Matzayra has to bring, when did they become? When did they become aser? It only becomes aser behana misha shchita. Meaning, let's say I take this bird and I say this bird is going to be for this Matzayra, but I'm taking it to the base of Mikdash. Can I be nana from that bird? So Rabbi Yochanan's holding yes. Rabbi Yochanan holds you can. You can be nana from the bird. Reish Lakish Amar Bishas Lakicha. Reish Lakish says no. From when you take it, from when you decide to take the bird, then that's it. Right? Rabbi Yochanan Bishas Shchita Huda Asrle. Right? He says it's just Shchita. Shchita is what makes it Asr. Reish Lakish Amar Bishas Lakicha me'egla rufa nafka. Right? Shchita is what makes it, according to Rabbi Yochanan, Shchita is what makes it Aser. Right? And Reish Lakish says from Lakicha. How do you know from Egla Rufa? My Egla Rufa Mechaim, just like Egla Rufa becomes Aser even when the animal is still alive. Right? After Tzipari Mitzayra Mechaim, so too the Tzipari from the Mitzayra also is Mechaim. So Gemara asks, Egla Rufa Gufa Me'em Masai. How do we know that the Egla Rufa becomes Aser? Meaning the Gemara is taking as a davar pashut that right when you decide which calf you're taking to break its neck, it becomes aser. Who do you know? How do you know that? Right? So Rav Yana Yikvul Shamati Ba. I once heard about a boundary, meaning when it becomes aser v'shachachti, and I forgot. Right? V'naspin charaya leimer, and all the chevra got together and said, "Yiridasa the nachal esan hu asarta." When it goes down to Nachal Esan, that's when it becomes Aser. Thank you. All right. So Gemara says, "Ima egla rufa mishas lekicha loy mitzra." So now what do you say? Basically, the egla rufa, the calf that they're going to snap its neck or break its neck, is not Aser when it gets taken. It only becomes Aser once it goes down to Nachal Esan. So tzipari mitzayra nami shas lekicha loy mitzra. So tzipari mitzayra. Also, it shouldn't become aser right when you take it. So when it answers hachi hashta hasam isli gvul achrina, there's another boundary. There is another boundary. Hacham he isli gvul achrina. Here by the birds, there's no other gvul. Meaning, by the egla rufa, you take the egla rufa, then you bring it down to the nachal esam, then you kill it, right? So there is a boundary there, taking it to nachal esam. But by Mitzvah, there's no boundary. Yeah, fine. So Eisvei, so that's Machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. So Eisvei Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish called Tzipor Tahira Techelu. It says you're allowed to eat any tzipor, right? Any tzipor tahira you could eat it. The rabbi says a mushalachas. What do you mean called tzipor tahira you're allowed to eat? Comes to include the tzipor that gets sent out, meaning by the Mitzvah, two birds go, right? One gets shafted, one gets dipped into the blood, and then gets sent away. So that it's coming to tell you that you're allowed to eat the tzipor that gets sent away is mutter. Not only is it mutter b'hana, it's even mutter b'achila. And what can't you eat? The rabbi says a shchuta. That's coming to include the saras bird that gets shechted. That's awesome. You're not allowed to eat it. And if you're going to say that these birds become asur from when they're alive, so then la'achar shchita mivaya, I need to tell you that it's asur after shchita. It was asur even before the shchita. Again, according to Rish Lakish, who holds that these birds become asur ba'ana even before the shchita. So I don't need a pasuk to tell you that it's asur even after shchita. It was asur even before the shchita. So the answer is not the same. Amidi dahava kachim. No, it's similar to kachim. The mechayim asiri. When kachim are alive, they're asur. V'asi shchita. When makashalu comes along shchita and makes it kosher, right? Right. Once you shech the kachim, so then a lot of the body, depending on which type of carbon, but a lot of the body could be eaten by kahanim, and sometimes by the owner too. Kamash Malon. So you would think the same thing would happen by the Mitzayra. You shecht the bird is taka aser. Then you shecht it, and it should become mutter. So Gemara is saying, the pasuk is saying no. That's kasha number one. Kasha number two, esvei shachtav and into treifa. If they shechted an animal, the bird, and they found it to be treif, so now yikach zug l'shniya. Then you take a zug, another pair, meaning a second one, for the second one, meaning you take a new bird for the second one. Meaning you don't need to bring two new birds, you just add one bird. And the first one, right? The first one becomes mutar ba'ana.
The dead one?
What?
The dead one?
What do you mean?
The one you shechted that you found to be treifa becomes mutar ba'ana now?
The one that was treif.
Right.
Yeah. You want to use it to chayst. I mean, use a feather to write Sifrei Torah with it. I don't know.
That's not
Right.
kachim.
No, it's saying so again. Shavtam and nimtzas treif. You got zug l'shniya. You take a new bird for the other bird that's not treif, and the rishon becomes mutar ba'ana. So what do you mean? We talking about the mechaim asura harishayna my mutaras ba'ana. But if it's asur from when it was alive, so then why should it become mutar ba'ana? Right? So Malay hacham asking don't you nimtzas treifa b'nei me'eh. So it's talking about where it was found treif internally. Because there was no kedusha chal on it at all, meaning the whole thing was a mistake from the beginning to the end. Meaning it's one thing if you shecht it, right, and then the guy shechted it wrong. Well, it's no shchita, right? But whatever, you've been malika, right, and it made it treif. Okay, so that was hektish. That became unholy because you made it treif. But if you find out that this animal was treif a month ago, then the whole hektish is not chal on it. So Mamela, it's not azabana. Right? It was never chal on it. Fine. So Esvei, another kasha shakta shalei be'ezai v'shalei be'etz erez v'shalei b'shni selas. Right? We said that's what you have to shecht. You have to shecht the Mitzayra's bird, and you have to have an ezaiv and an eitz erez. That's ezaiv is hyssop, right? Eitz erez is cedar, and shni telas and the red string. So you need to have that all by the shchita. Let's say the guy shechted it and it didn't arrive yet. So then what's the din? Rabbi Yaakov Aimer Hoyle voktel mitzvasa asura. Since the bird was already muksa for the mitzvah, it's asa. Rabbi Shimon Aimer Hoyle v'nishchata shaloikim mitzvasa mutaris. No, he says it's not a problem. It wasn't shechted properly, so it's not. It never became asa. Right. So again, huksel and mitzvasa. That's what we discussed. About the schach and the noise sukkah. It's still fresh, so we could say it, right? The Welt makes this big mistake and thinks that it's muksa like it's Shabbos. It has nothing to do with Shabbos. The reason why you can't use the schach for your teeth, or you can't use the noise sukkah, is because it's huksel and mitzvasa. It doesn't mean it's muksa, right? If it falls down on the floor, you could pick it up. You can hang up schach on cholamayah. There's nothing. As long as you're doing it on behalf of the muksa, there's nothing wrong, right? But
The fact that it's huksa with tfasa, does it make a muksa on Shabbos?
Yes.
There is an aspect of muksa.
The Oxel Mitzvah, Mishnah Berurah says, does make it muksa on Shabbos if it's again if you're using it for non-muksa,
But
non.
it's muktzah and chol hamoed also. There's no added thing to these things on Shabbos or Yom Tov itself.
Correct.
Mhm.
It's not the same din of muksa. Anyways, whatever it is. So we have a machlokes here whether again they shechted. They're supposed to have the eitzeres, ezoi, shnit telas there by the shechita. He didn't. So now is that animal aser or not? So the Tanakama says that it's aser because hooks a mitzvah. I'm sorry, not the Tanakh. That's Rabbi Yaakov. Rabbi Yaakov says it's hooks a mitzvah. It's aser. Rabbi Shimon says no. It would never had the din of kedusha. One says that a shchita that was not roy is still considered a shchita. Meaning, so therefore, even though it was not roy for the mitzvah, because you didn't have these three things there, the ezov and the eitzeres and shni salas, but so it's not it's still called a shchita. Marsa shchita shein roy loshma shchita, but the kol yamamiyah mechayim le mitzvah. They're all arguing whether this bird is usher or not from the shechita or not. But it sounds like, according to everybody, it was not usher from before, right? So the Gemara finally says Tanaihi, what the machlok is, Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. So you can't be asking kashas on each other's opinions because it's really machlok is Tanoim. The Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel never machshir mechaber b'fnim, but never machshir mechaber b'chutz, like we just learned. Ma machshir mechaber amar b'fnim, also by machshir k'mechaber. Right, the machshir is like the mechaber. Av machshir mechaber, ha'amar b'chutz. Right, the machshir mechaber that said outside by tzaras, also by machshir k'mechaber. The machshir is like the mechaber, right? And it's just like the tzaras, the metzora is making you into who's being machshir you. So memela, it's going to be also the same way the egla rufa is. Okay, so it ends up being a machlokes tonight. Now it doesn't say how the Tanaim are going to answer the Gemara's kashas, right? The Gemara still had a kasha on those shitas, right? It's just saying that there's no kasha between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, but you still have the kasha in the Tanaim. Okay, fine. Gufa. Called tzipar tahira techelu. Any tzipar that's tahir you should eat. The Rabbi says the mishalachas is coming to include the animal that gets sent out, right? That it's mutter. And the one that you can't eat, the Rabbi says a shchuta. It's coming to include the shchuta. Okay, so the Gemara says who says maybe you should switch it again?
You know how much can you imagine how much they'd sell that to somebody as a schooler to eat such a bird? Oh boy. Big bucks. Big bucks.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, right. So now the Gemara is saying that the pasuk that's saying that every bird is mutter to eat, that's referring to the bird that gets sent out. So that's mutter to eat. And the one that says you're not allowed to eat birds is referring to the Mitzvah bird that gets shechted. Okay, who says? Maybe the opposite. Efshir fakert, right? That's what they say. Maybe it's the opposite, right? Maybe the bird that gets shechted is mutar b'hana, and the bird that gets sent out is also b'hana. Who says which one goes to which? So we don't see that Balei Chaim are awesome. We don't have a precedence that Balei Chaim, Rashi says, means that are awesome forever. We don't have a precedent.
What does it mean bug?
Something that's alive should be also forever.
I don't understand. One is
also forever. One is not. So we said the one that gets freed is mutter. The one that gets shafted is also. And so we're asking, why don't you switch it?
So you're saying the one that's freed should be the one that's mutter because
Correct.
it's alive. We don't.
Well, the Gemara is asking, maybe the one that's freed should be also. So what I'm saying, there's no such thing as Balei Chaim that are also forever. Right? So the Gemara asks, Masgal Rishmu Bar Yitzchak V'loi, and it's not V'harei on Talmud Beis now. Muktzah v'nevad to Balei Chaim ninu v'asiri. Muktzah. Now muktzah doesn't mean again. Not if we have another muktzah here, which doesn't mean like any of the muktzahs we had before. But muktzah means that a guy appointed it to become a carbon for an avodah zarah. Right? And nevad means that they actually bow down to it. The Balei Chaim Nenuva Asiri, they're Balei Chaim and they're also forever.
Don't we find kachim that are?
No, Kachim become mutter. They
You
become
had a
mutter.
case of something where something was going to be that you couldn't have enough from it and do anything. From LA, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Peter Hamar, you had some case.
I don't
Where
know.
the thing, the guy should have sold it to a guy or something.
That's a bechor, but that's because you messed up.
But that's something that's alive.
What?
It's also forever.
It doesn't. No, you can once it gets a mum, it becomes mutter. We just don't have anybody to decide that, right? So the Gemara, it's okay. So these things could become also forever. If you bow down to an animal, it comes also forever. So my answer is ki also the gavai lehedjit mishra shari. That's only that it's also for karbanas, but for an hedjit it will become mutter, right? So that's not a good example. You have bestiality, whether the animal is on the giving end or the receiving end of it. The Adam and Adam saw it. The Balei Chaim Ninu, they're Balei Chaim and they're also forever. Right? So Gemara gives in and says, "Yeah, okay, you got me." Not all Balei Chaim, Roi Balei Chaim. So the assumption is that the bird that's going to stay alive should be the one that's mutter. To Rabbi Yishmael, Tana Damar Krav V'Shilach Al Pnei Hasada. So here's a different shot. It says you're supposed to send the bird out Al Pnei Hasada. So and it's we learn it out. It's Kisada. Ma Sada Mutaris, just like the Sada is mutter. Afainami Mutaris, so too this bird is also mutter. Meaning a Sada is there's no Isser on a field. So the bird is compared to the Sada. So Gemara says, Hi Sada, but we need this word Sada for something. When we look at the Tanya, Sada Shalo Yami B'Yafo B'Yizarken Yam. Yafo was a port city, right? Or it is a port city. So don't stand in Yafo and let the bird free into the water. The Geves, V'Yizarkenu L'Midbar. Right? Geves was on the edge of the Midbar, so don't send it towards the Midbar. Don't stand outside the city, and throw the bird into the city. You should be standing inside the city and throw it outside the city. Right? Fine. Im Kain. So what's what's the kasha? So you see that we need the word sada. We need the word sada to tell you to make sure you take this bird and put it into the sada, not that it's coming to tell you that the bird's mutabana. And what are they going to say? The other sheet is what they're going to say. Im Kain nefta cross sadeh. My hasada. What is hasada? Shmamina tarti. From the word hasada, we can darshan both. That you should let it go free into the field, and that it's not osibano. Rava has a third shot. How do we know for sure that the bird that went free is mutabano? Loy amra Torah shalach litakala. If you're saying that this bird that you're letting go free is osibano, how can you let it go free? Some innocent soul is going to find this bird and is going to take it, and he's not going to know that it's osibano. Right? Anyways, so that's Rava's pshat. The psukim. So we say that's asmach the balma. Fine. The seir nazir. So if he's a real romance man, he takes the hair off his head, right, and he's makadesh his wife with it. Wonderful, right? So it's also no. So it doesn't work.
His hair? It's definitely his hair.
No, I don't know. I'm talking as I'm saying it. I'm wondering it.
So my question is, if it's not his hair, he could take somebody else's hair. It's not his. He has reshus. It's his.
That's it. And Nazir gave it to him. No, he got it from one of these. He got it from one of these auctions.
We can't show with a shaitel.
No, but it's
What he got?
No, we're talking about the hair of the Nazir.
All right. Okay.
He bought it on the Gnazayim, whatever it's called, auction.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And now he went and he's Makadosh Isha with it, right? Yeah. But anyway, so bottom line is it's also bahana. So it's us. It's minol. And how do you know it's also bahana? It should be holy. The gidol pera, the hair that you're growing, sarosha, the head on his head. Gidula yia kaddish. His gidula should be kaddish. So Gemara says, if that's the case, ima kaddish typhus is dama v'yotzel l'chulin. Right now, it's typhus, it's damin, it's money, but it goes out to chulin. Meaning, if you sell the hair, like we said, you buy it on the auction, so now the money becomes also the hair becomes mutter. So afser not. I mean, that's what happens by hektish. So meaning, right, you sell a hektish animal, the money becomes hektish, the animal goes out. So afser nazir typhus is dama v'yotzel l'chulin. So maybe it should also go out to chulin. So Gemara answers, mi karinan kaidesh, kadosh karinan. We read it as kadosh. Right, so it's a Korean ksiv. Rashi says this is
the
one
same
of the.
diktuk we just had in the halacha.
It's exactly right.
Very good.
Exactly right, 100%. We were in the Kitzur shir, we were talking about the diktukim of Kriya Shema. Rashi says this is one of the 13 Mesiris and Chaseris and Yeseris that there are. Right, so it's not. We don't read it Kodesh, we read it as Kadosh. Right, so what does that change? I'll hand that over to Gershon to decide to say it over. I'm saying exactly how does that change it? Right?
Kaddish means beguf. It is Kaddish. It is, you can't change it.
Intrinsically. It's intrinsically.
Kaddish. We treat it as Kedusha.
Kadosh is we're making it holy. Is that the right way to say it?
No, Kaddish is we're making it holy. Kaddish is it's intrinsic.
I got it wrong? 1 second.
Like Kedusha, Kaddish, Kaddish, Kaddish. You can't change the Kedusha of the Eibishter.
Right.
It's intrinsically Kaddish on every level. So
Yeah.
Kaddish here means it is intrinsically Kaddish. Kodesh means we make it or we treat it with Kedusha, as Kedusha.
How come I feel like I got
Yeah.
a sheer of Diktuk Rashi just
Yeah. Anyways, point is that it's a Korean ksiv, right? It's written, it's spelled Kodesh, right? But we read it as Kadosh. Yeah. Okay, fine. But Peter Chamor. So Peter Chamor is again, that's the firstborn of a donkey.
That's what you had. That's what I was talking about, right?
No. There was anyway. So didn't Peter Chamor is he supposed to be paided? Always with a coin. If a guy doesn't want to do it, then it's not like other things. You got to snap again. You snap its neck like an egla rufa. Right. So name masnisa the like Reb Shimon the Tanya Peter Chamor also bahana. But Peter Chamor is also bahana. Divrei Reb Yehuda. Reb Shimon mater. Reb Shimon says mutter. Right. So you see, it's a machlokes whether it's mutter also bahana. We're talking about once its neck is broken. Once its neck is broken, then everybody holds it's also bahana. Fine. Basa b'cholov. That should be
I was
the.
like, once
I
it's like
personally saw-
then everyone holds its usher and
Usher.
it's alive. Everyone agree.
It's a machlokes. Yeah. Go ahead. What are you saying?
In this pasuk, the Imlay Siftev Ha'araftai in Kadishli. So I saw someone came into the store with tefillin. He wanted them checked. He was accused of abusing a boy in a yeshiva. He was a rabbi. And he had his tefillin checked. And instead of tifte, it said tifate.
Really?
Yep, that was his tefillin. First I saw them personally.
That's interesting. Wow.
So it's not giving him light tifate. He didn't do anything. The boy reneged afterwards. But Varafte, the guy can't teach forever.
I hear. Wow. Anyways, okay. So
Even after he fixed the tefillin?
Yep.
wow. Anyways, okay. Fine. Basa b'cholov. Now that one we all know about, right? Basa b'cholov is aser behana. Right? So minalon, the Tana Dvei Reb Yishmael, loisavasha gediva chalevi mai. Don't cook in the mother's milk. Gimel poem. Echad iser achila, v'echad iser hana, v'echad iser bishul. Right? One's iser achila, hana, and to cook. Masnisna the like Tana the Tanya Shim and Yehuda. I'm impossible b'chalav asa b'achila. Mutter b'hana. He holds possible b'chalav is mutter b'achila. Mutter b'hana. Shenemer ki am kadosh ati l'Hashem alekecha loysu hashel gidiva chalevi mai. La'alanu women v'anshe kodesh tiyunli. Ma la'alon asa b'achila mutter b'hana. Right over there, it's asa b'achila mutter b'hana. Afkan asa b'achila mutter b'hana. Okay, it's fairly straightforward. So chulin that gets shechted in the Beis Hamikdash. So there's two types of things that go on. There's chulin that gets shechted in the Beis Hamikdash, and then there's kachim that gets shechted b'chutz. Right? So Gemara is going to compare the two. How do you know that chulin that gets shechted in the Azara is asar? So Amar Rav Yochanan B'Shem Rav Meir Amar Torah shchot li b'shali v'shalcha b'shalcha. Shecht mine in my place and yours in your place. Right? Meaning Hashem saying, keep the kachim should be shechted by me, and the chulin should be shechted by you. Ma shali b'shalcha also, just like me, you can't shecht my stuff by you. That's kachim b'chutz. Af shalcha b'shali also, so to yours and by me it's also. So Gemara asks, Ima shali b'shalcha anush karus. So, if you shecht kachim outside the Beis Hamikdash, it's a chiyuv karus. Af shalcha b'shali anush karus. So too, if you take your chulin and shecht it in the Beis Hamikdash, it should be anush karus. Amakra al pesach ayom lo yaviu lahakir korban l'Hashem v'nichras. It says the pesach ayom moyed don't bring a korban. A korban anush karus al chulin shenesh azara ain anush karus. Right, on a korban, you're going to have a if you shecht kachim outside the Beis Hamikdash, that you'll get karus. On chulin that gets shechted in the Beis Hamikdash, there's no anush karus. And then if that's the case, so how could you learn one out from the other? Right? Mishali b'shalcha is meaning kachim b'chutz is a karus. So how do you go learn out the other way around? Right? Chulin in the Azara, if the other one is karus. So it says it 3 times. Talasa kra yiseri matamalim. What are 3 extra psukim? So Gemara is going to be repetitive here because we're learning out similar things, but from all 3. When you be very far from Makam, from the Mishkan, you're going to shecht. Right? Right? When you're far away from the Mishkan, you are allowed to shecht. But you're not allowed to shecht when you're close to the Mishkan. That's coming to tell you that you're not allowed to shecht chulin in the Azara. Right? This is talking about in the times of it's not well known, right? In the times of the Midbar, you cannot have a barbecue. That's the bottom line. Well, there's the basic thing is you are not allowed to shecht meat since the Mishkan, everybody lived around the Mishkan. You had no excuse. So therefore, if you wanted meat, you had to bring a korban shlomim. That's the way it worked. Right? I mean, you couldn't bring your own animal and bring it, let me shecht in the Beis Hamikdash, but I'm taking all the meat for myself. No. You had to bring a korban shlomim. Right? That was the only way to do it. Once they moved to Eretz Yisrael and people were far away, so then the Torah says you could shecht your own stuff outside the Beis Hamikdash, not Hashem's korbanos outside the Beis Hamikdash, but your stuff you can. Right? So that's the same. That's telling you no chulin in the Azara. That's only referring to complete, the things that didn't have a mum, that you could actually use them to bring a korban. How do you know that even a Baal Mum you're not allowed to? Right? So Marbaniv Bali Mum she came min amachshe. Bali Mum, it is a min that could become kosher. Right? So therefore, it's even though right now it's a Baal Mum, but it itself is a kosher animal. Fine. What about a chaya? Right? Right? No other chayas other than what do you call it? Goats, sheep, and an ox are ever shechted in the Beis Hamikdash. Right? If they have the din shchita, like they're like a behemoth. And how do you know that birds right? Who says that they're also asur? It says it 3 times, right? So memela, you're not allowed to shecht anything in the Beis Hamikdash, not birds, not behemoths with mumin, not chayes, right? So you would think, okay, don't shecht, v'im shachad yehi mutter. But if you did shecht it, then you could eat it. What you could shecht far away, you're allowed to eat it. But you're not allowed to eat of any of that you can bring as a carbon in the Beis Hamikdash. Prat l'chulin shenesh l'bazar. That's coming to exclude chulin that gets shechted in the azar, that it's also to eat. Vainly ela tamimim. That only tells you tamimim on Talmud Aleph now. Haruyim likarev minayin. How do you know if they're roy to be makar of them? How do you know the mayin l'rabbi haruyim likarev? I'm sorry, that they're roy to be brought. Minayin l'rabbi is bali mumen. How about bali mumen also are also to eat? Marbani bali mumen shekayim min hamachsher. Like we said, it itself is a kosher animal, just happens to have a mumen. Okay, Minayin l'rabbi says a chaya. How do you know it's coming to include a chaya? Marbani is a chaya. She b'shchita kebehema. Chaya has shchita behema. Minayin l'rabbi says oifus. I don't know if it comes to include oifus. Tamanah b'shachta b'shachat oisai b'shachat oisai. That tells you that if you do any of these things and shechted in the Beis Hamikdash, then you are, it's also to eat it. Yachol yishchait v'im shachat yishachenu l'fnei klavim. So you think, okay, so maybe don't shecht it, but if you did, you could at least use it for dog meat, meaning it's mutabana. You send it to the kelev. But you cannot send chulin that was shechted in the azara. So from that's how we know that chulin shenesh azara is asur behana.
Take your word for it.
Fine. Naftali's going to take the word for it. Okay.
All right.
Everybody should have themselves a fine night. We should hear only Basuras Toilus.
Amen. Shkach. Gute Nacht.
All right, thank you.